Hi friends, today we are discussing about cursors. So basically what is a cursor and what are the alternatives for the cluster and how we have to create a cursor and use it. This is what we are going to see in this example. So first of all, what is a cursor? A cursor is a database object which performs a row by row operation, and you can update, delete the data or insert the data using the cursor. But it basically a row by row an operation to implement your business logic. So the general thumb rule is like we should avoid cursors because if it is a very large table and you start using cursor, it locks the table because it does it by row. It might become a performance hogger. So there are other alternatives on using the cursor by the while loop or through other iterative process. But here in this example, we are looking at the while loop as an alternative to the cursor. So if possible, we should avoid cursor. Okay. So in this example, I am again using AdventureWorks 2012. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create a scenario to showcase the example of the cursor. So I'm referring to the table person.person, which is in AdventureWorks 2012. So in that it has many columns, but I'm just taking a couple of columns to show you the business logic. So my intention here is, say if you are having an e-commerce platform and you are having your customers and they are having um, first name and last name, and you want to create their user profiles with the username and password. So the username will be the first name dot last name, and the password is first three letters of the first name, and this year. So this year is 2018. So you want to append first three letters from the first name plus the year. So that's going to be the password for this year if I'm doing some promotion. So, like I said, like I'm getting the person details from the person.person, and I'm creating another table called person password. If you see, I'm doing it with the DBO schema. In the AdventureWorks, you will see the table with the person schema. So I just want to create the usernames and passwords and distribute it for the year 2018. So first I'm creating the username, and then I'm using a cursor to read row by row and create the password. Okay. So this is the example. Like as you can see, I defined create table uh, person.person. I'm using an identity column here. So it auto increments by itself for 1, 1. So first one will be 1, 2, 3. So it automatically populates because the seed value is 1 and the incremental value is 1. So I'm having first name, last name as columns, and username. You can see this is my derived column or calculated column which I created it, and there is a password which I'll be using in the next session. So once I create this table, then I should be able to populate the table. So this is created. So now I'm trying to see how many if it is created. So I'm using the select statement here. So there is nothing. So I want to populate this person.password table. So I just simply said insert into DBO person.password, and what are the columns I'm populating here. So it is first name, last name, and the username. So I get first name, last name from the person.person table. So this is my reference table in AdventureWorks. So I said my username is going to be first name dot last name. So that's why I created basically a string with first name and last name with a dot in between. So I'm saying that as username, and a username is column is going into this particular uh, column. So these values are going into this particular column. Okay, so when I run this, I think there are 19,000 rows here, around 19,000. So they should be inserted. So 19,972 rows is inserted. So now I'm actually trying to see the data in the person password table. So as you can see, I have the IDs, which is identity, first name, last name, and the username. You can see Syed Abbas. So it is Syed dot Abbas, and password is the one which we want to use the cursor and update it. Okay, so that is how I created and populated the table. Now I have to create the cursor. So before going any step further, so this is the syntax for the cursor. So this is how you need to write the cursor. So so the first thing you do is you declare the cursor by using the declare statement, and then you write the select statement. The select statement gives the data, or it will give you the result set which needs to be iterated for the business logic. So in this case, I'm getting the data from the person password table, which I just created in the first few SQL statements. So then you need to open the cursor. So how you open the cursor is by using the open cursor name, and the next statement is fetch next. So whenever you see fetch next, it is actually reading the data row 1, row 2, row 3. So first, for the very first time when you write it, so it's getting the data from the row 1 into the variables unit. So whatever the variables you are using, the same data types with respect to what you are getting from this from the data. So in our case, I'm reading the first name and last name. So I declare the variable first, which is of the same data type as first name and last name, to hold the data in the variables. Okay. So this is the fetch next from cursor name into the variables. So the another important SQL statement is while at the rate fetch status equal to 0. So you basically it's using a while loop, and at the rate fetch status will read the data. So if it is the last record, then it is obviously equal to 0. So it starts from the beginning, and it iterates through the process row by row till it reaches the last row. So that is what the fetch status does. And between the begin and end, after the while, it's just implementing your business logic. Whatever you want to write, you want to update the table, you want to calculate some other values, you can write it here between the begin and end. So just before the end, you see that there is a fetch next from cursor name. So what it's doing is, because it already read row number 1, and now it has to increment the value to go to row 2. So that's why we are using fetch next from. So the row number 2 is populated into this variable now. So after 2 is done, again it comes to the fetch next, then it becomes 3, 4, 5 till the end of the result set. So once you are done with the cursor, you have to close the cursor, which you can do by the close and the cursor name. And once you are done working on the cluster, we deallocate the cluster. We deallocate the cursor, so we can delete the cursor basically. Okay, so I'm using all these variables in my cursor. So I will declare them here. So this is the example of the cursor. So here I'm using five variables actually. So one is ID, first name, last name, username, password. So ID is int and password is varchar 100, username is varchar 100. So which is matching with the data types I'm expecting in the table. So first I am declaring the cursor. So I'm saying declare db cursor. This is the name of the cursor, and cursor is the keyboard here. So I am writing the select statement. My select statement here is select ID, first name, last name, and username, which I created above. So this is the same result set you are seeing. So once I declare the cursor, all the 19,972 records are in the result set. So now, because I declared these variables in the before creating the cursor, now I'm opening the cursor and I'm saying fetch next from db cursor, which is the name of the cursor, into this variable. So I'm getting this four values, which is ID, first name, last name, username. So once it executes this statement, so the row number 1, which is ID, is populated with 1, first name is Syed, last name is Abbas, username Syed.Abbas. It's populated into these variables. So once we get there, I'm saying while at the rate fetch status equal to 0, that means to read through the end of the result set. So I'm opening my business logic here within the begin end. So what I'm trying to do here, like I said, my requirement is like, for every row, I get the first name, last name, username, and I have to create the password. So the password is going to be the first 3 letters of the first name plus the year. So you can use one or first through 3 or first 2. That depends on what you want to use. So I'm just using first a few characters of my first name, and then appending it with the year, which is 2018, and creating the password for each username account. So in order to do that, I just wrote set, and I'm using this variable. As you can see, this variable is declared before creating the cursor. So I'm saying, set password equal to substring of the first name, and 1,3 plus convert varchar. So here I would get an integer, so I'm converting it into the varchar 4, because this is expecting varchar. So once I get the password, then I have to update the password. So for the very first record, it's going to be ID 1. So I am updating the password for Syed Abbas here. So I'm saying update table, which is table name, set password equal to password, which is the calculated or the derived uh, value here, where ID equal to ID. So for ID equal to 1, I'm populating the password, and then I'm going to the next, which is fetch next. So I'm reading value or row number 2, which is Catherine Abel. So once it populates into these ones, the iteration continues, the loop continues. So for every row, it gets the ID, first name, last name, username. It tries to calculate the password, and once it gets the password, it updates the table by using the ID 2. So where ID equal to 2, again it calculates the derived password, and updates it for the row 2. So likewise, until the fetch status equal to 0, the loop continues, and after that, I'm saying close and deallocate cursor name. So basically, I'm freeing the memory space, and I'm removing any locks on the table. So let's see this. So before that, I just want to write this statement, select star from dbo dot person password, uh, order by ID descending. So this is just to see how it's working. Okay, so I'm trying to run this cursor now. So basically, I remove some spaces. Okay, so I'm running it now. So as you can see, when I click the messages, it is actually working on 19,972 result set. So I'm trying to get these values here to see what's not working. So it's a PASSWD. So PASSWD. So it is one more S I have to remove. So let's see. So as you can see, it is working on 6,680. Now, once again, I run it. So the count should increase. So now it is 7,800 row. So as you can see, it takes the first name, last name, and the first three letters from the first name plus the year. So the iteration continues until it reaches to the 19,000. You can see now it is at the 10,000th row. So this is the example for the cursor. It does a row by row operation until it finishes the loop, which is the complete result set. In our case, it's 19,972. So how you do the same functionality with the while loop. So once this completes, let me delete the data in the table. I populate the table again, and then or I reset the password to be null. Then we can start working on the while loop. So, but it's the same logic. Basically, you are not using the cursor and you are doing it with the while loop. So while this operation continues, I'll go ahead and explain how the while loop works. Again, I have declared the same variables I have declared uh, in the cursor. So the extra one is count. So, so as you can see, now it is finished. The execution is finished. So let me go back and see the status. So you can see 19,972 row is also updated with the password. So now what I do is update. So I'm force resetting the password to be null. So now if I do that, I will get the null values again. So I'm going to use my while loop to populate the table again, as an alternative to the cursor. So as you can see, this is the same variable set I used before, except the count, which is of the variable int. Why I need count? Because I need to get how many rows I need to get that volume of my result set. So it's just to get the count to iterate the process. Okay. So first I set at this ID equal to 1, which is here. So I want to start from row 1 to the count of the table, which is I'm getting here selected the rate count. Uh, I'm using a count star function, so it basically gives you how many rows are there in this particular table, which we know is 19,972. So here, instead of cursor, I'm using while 1 less than equal to 19,972 begin. So between the begin and end, you know that we have to implement our business logic. So our business logic is basically simple. Just read, uh, ID, first name, last name, username for every row, calculate the password as before, and update the table with the new password. So here I'm saying, like, as I declared this 5 variables here, I'm populating the values ID equal to ID, first name equal to first name. So all these variables will have the values from person.password table where ID equal to 1. So here, as you know, for the row 1, I'm getting all these values, and I'm saying in the second row, I'm calculating the password. So again, it's simple. Select password equal to substring first 3 letters of the first name plus convert of the year. So, and appending it to the first 3 letters of the first name. So we get our password. So once password is calculated, I am trying to update the table by using ID equal to ID. So after that, this is important because I'm incrementing the first row 1 is done. Now I have to move to row 2. How I do that? I'm incrementing the ID equal to 2, then 3, then 4 till 19,972. So I'm also resetting the first name, last name, and username to space or to empty string, so that I don't have any variable stored from my earlier iteration. So I don't want to have a scenario where I'm updating the password of the earlier row. So that's why I'm resetting the values. So after that, it just end. Here, it's just a while loop. I don't have to close and deallocate. So we will see how this one works. So theoretically, this should be faster than cursor. So the alternative to the cursor by using the while loop. So I selected all the selected. So I would like to select all the till here. So now I'm actually running the while loop. Okay. So while I'm going and running my while statement here, so I'm again executing the statement. As you can see now, it is 1200 row, which is populated with the password. So the loop continues till it is 19,972. So, so as you can see, once this completes, this is what it populates, and as of now, it's 6,000 row, and it goes till 19,972 record, and it just completes that thing iterations. So it's 56 seconds here. So it's definitely faster than cursor. So once it's done, it's just the same like updating the passwords as we done with the cursor. So now it's 10,000. So hopefully in a couple of seconds, this will be done. So 10,000. So we have to have the 19,000. So now it is at 14,000, 14,500, still around 5,000 rows to go. So it just updates the password. So now it is at 16,500. So 3 more thousand. So as you can see, this is also goes on. So this one is it's populating. So I hope you understood. So this is through the cursor, and so it's basically declare, select statement, open cursor, fetch next from while at the rate fetch status equal to 0. Your business logic, then before end you you iterate it, you increment the value of your iteration by using fetch next, and after it's done, it's close and deallocate. So this is how you write it. So I think it's done now. I think I should be able to see the 19,000, and it's how much time it took. So this one is 248. I think the other one took a bit longer with the cursor. So I hope you understand the importance of the cursor and how to use the cursor and the drawbacks of the cursor. And here there is an alternative using the while loop. So if possible, avoid cursor and try to implement with the while loop, which is faster. So that is what is suggestible. Avoid cursor if possible. Thank you.